I thought I would give a little overview of how I do data entry when I'm updating my own internal charts to produce graphs for Florida. It's not the official COVID tracking project way of doing things. I haven't done data entry for that for a while, but it kind of helps you understand like how thorough the process for actually adding information about COVID-19 in Florida happens. So I think generally the first place that we start is the Florida Health COVID-19.gov website, which is simply just a domain that the Florida Department of Health has registered to show information about COVID-19. There's kind of like tables and overviews of the current situation in here, positive residents, stuff like that. But it's only resident data, which is not great. And they kind of like separate, they separate residents and non-residents, which is problematic. But thankfully, they also display reports, and those are PDF reports. So we have a state report right here. We have a state line list, which is, I think, a PDF. Yeah, it's a PDF document, and a state county report. So these are kind of like the top level things. There's a bunch of other reports that are specific to some stuff, like long-term care facilities and group homes were actually recently added. Sorry, the group homes were added. And there's a separate report for long-term care facility deaths. There's an antibody result because antibodies are very different from the normal tests. Normal test being PCR or RT-PCR. And now, since July 1st, Florida includes antigen tests, which are faster, cheaper tests that are given that are also viral tests. So they do give you an idea of whether or not someone is currently positive. Antibody tests on the opposite are tests that check that people had COVID-19 and developed antibodies as a result. In the past, they might not be positive anymore for the viral, like the virus might not still be in them. There's a pediatric report, and then Department of Correction facilities. That is state facilities, so it does not include jails, which are county specific, and ICE detention centers, I believe, are not also included in this report. I think we verified that. Anyway, so this is the overview. I'm just gonna do my thing. I might not look at the camera while I'm doing it, which is fine. So first is to get an idea for what's going on. A lot of people just go straight to the state report because it has an overview. That said, the county report also gets this overview, and it's actually a little bit more graphical, so it's easier to see, and there's more context, which is great. One thing I wish they would include in their dashboard. So this is one very important thing to note here is that these are listed. I don't know if you can see the file name is State Report Latest. What's great, and you'll discover really quickly if you're a little creative, is that you can just remove that and then you get the entire archive, which is great. That archive actually didn't used to be that thorough. It only had the last X days, and the file naming was terrible, but none, the file naming is getting better, and they even have a little template for how to name files for for people who add reports to this, which is good. So let's go to the state by just searching for the word state. You can see there's the state line list, which is available as a PDF listed on that page, but it's also available as an Excel spreadsheet, which is really, really, really useful for people like me, researchers, journalists, etc. So we can go all the way to the bottom for that 712 report, which is the report of today. And really that latest file you can see is basically the same file. It's just a shortcut to that report. I find it much more useful to link to the actual file name, because if you link to a report in a reference tweet or in a newspaper article, you will inadvertently be pointing to a non-permalink, something that changes to a different thing when they update the report tomorrow. So let's open that specific 712 update, and you can see it says data through July 11th, verified as of July 12th at 9:25 a.m. That's very important because a lot of the data that's in this report, if you scroll down to here, for instance, you will see date 12 a.m. That's not a date, but I guess it's the date here, and then it's reporting the time for each segment of that graph. So 6:28 is from 12 a.m., so the very beginning of the day, to 11:59 p.m. on 6:28. That's important because the reports come out today, like 7:12. I'm recording this today, and they are about the previous day. And it's important to know because a lot of people report today X happened, where really it's what happened yesterday that you hear. So it's slightly delayed. So to get an idea for what we track, first of all, we track, and a lot of people track persons tested, not tests, persons tested. And that's the distinction between tests that occurred on a given day, or actually here, these are cumulative totals of tests. So there's 2,500,76,813. Numbers hard to say. So there's a lot of people that were tested. Of those, that many positives, that many negatives, that many inconclusives. That happens a lot. There's also a bunch of awaiting testing, which is different, separate from the totals tested. That's just an informative thing. We have cases which are of the people tested with PCR or antigen who tested positive. So total cases, thankfully now, including non-Florida residents, because that's a relevant number. And then there's different types of testing with, it's not really types of testing so much as it's facilities testing. So anyway, let's start with this. So I have this gigantic spreadsheet. It's very intimidating. It's very long too. It's got a lot of stuff on it. So it starts with the report date. So we're on, new day, new line. So I'm going to make 2 new lines, and today is Sunday. So since I start my reports on Monday, this is the Monday, you'll notice 2 dates. This is the report date, and there's the actual occurrence dated. So just for me to be able to track that. The first thing that I generally add is not necessarily deaths, although that's kind of a significant thing. It's going to be the number of tests. So we can do that from here. And if we look for deaths, I actually don't remember where deaths are listed right there. So there's Florida resident deaths. So this is a tricky thing. You see there's a number for Florida resident deaths, and it says plus 45 of those. That's why it's nested under there. There's also a 104 here. And really the number that we're looking for is 104 plus 4,242, which is 4,346. I don't like adding things. And it turns out that there's a source that reproduces those deaths, because deaths, as you can see, only occur in cases. So to be dead of COVID-19, I know that sounds weird, you have to first you have to first be a case. You have to first be a positive COVID-19, or you are, when you died and it's discovered that you were COVID-19 positive, you will be added to the case data. And by case, people mean people who are positive of COVID-19. So interestingly, the line list we talked about, which is also, we could also find a version that's dated, line list 712. That line list includes, let me zoom in so you can see everything. Actually, did I zoom that in? There you go. It'll be easier to see on a large screen. So this includes every single death recorded for Florida residents. Again, problematic because we don't just want Florida residents. And I don't think this lists, if I scroll down really quickly, we might be able to see, I think the jurisdiction is always Florida. Oh, no. So this is confusing. There might be some Florida residents diagnosed out of state in there. But this is not very easy to scroll, to filter through or scroll through. Oh, okay. That's very interesting. I thought this was a list of Florida residents, so that's confusing. Things we learn. Thankfully, the Florida Department of Health has a dashboard that is actually listed right here. So if you click on the dashboard, it takes you to this thing that's very well known at this point. And this thing has high-level metrics. Positive residents specifically doesn't, again, it exclude non-residents, except like finally deaths are included here, which is nice. And it's got a bunch of graphs. This one's fairly useful. This one's a tragedy. I talked about it in other videos. This Florida testing, including, I believe, both non-residents and residents, which is good. And a bunch of other things. So right there at the bottom, there's a link that says data is updated every day, approximately 11 a.m. Actually true. If you click on that link, it takes you to open-fdoh.hub, like GIS website, which includes the big data sets, the big top level data sets. So the case line data, which I showed you as a PDF in this form, PDFs, not super easy to filter and to have have logic or a script or a program go over. It's easier to deal with raw data or CSV data. I believe that's CSV data. So we have zips, so occurrence based on the residence, I think, of those people. Hopefully it's not just the hospital they were admitted at. There you go. Let's go to the case line data. So the case line data will tell us, for instance, if I go to data and I look for died, there you go. It's a good example. I can filter by, all the yeses. These are all the people that died. Duh. You can download that as a spreadsheet. And there's also a GeoJSON thing. Well, there's another alternative to this website, which is the website that is listed in what is called the case line data. The data definition. So it's FDOH. Actually, don't have that link. I think, I have that link here. So because there's essentially another source that is used for this dashboard. Actually, the data that is pulled into the dashboard itself comes from not this open FDOH site, but a sister site, which is here. So for instance, if we want to find the case line data, it actually gives us not just a CSV or output or something like that. It gives us a data feed, and that data feed contains, in this case, all the cases. So these are all the cases listed in order of, I believe, date. This case one date is the date they were added to the case line. So if we go backwards, there you go. There's a 38-year-old female that was added from Dade County. Could be, I think that's the county of residence, I believe. And anyway, as you saw, I made a little tool that actually pulls that data and iterates through the case line data and finds for every possible value in the case line data all the positives or all the case line data. So it's fairly easy to do. It was last updated from the last update to the FDOH. As you remember, they said they updated update 11.36, so I can prove that they have. And we pulled it. We tried to pull an update as recently as 2 p.m. EDT time, which is summertime in the East Coast. So positives are here. So I use this rather than the state PDF, but I do also check the state PDF to make sure that my numbers are not wrong. So we're going to take the positives and we're going to plug them into the total positives, which are right here. That might be a little hard to see. So let me zoom in a little bit. There you go. The headers should be visible. So put that in here. And then you see there's some columns that are calculating some deltas or some differences. So let me do that again. You can see based on the positives listed yesterday, I already can tell you that there's 15,300 new positives, not necessarily on yesterday's date, but overall added to the case line data. So that's significant. This calendar POS that you see there, so POS is for positive, not for something else. That comes from the report. So that is the number we get from the report. So I'm going to go back to the report, which is the 12th. Scroll down to the next page, and on the next page there's a few graphs that are useful, namely this top graph here, number of cases per day. That is very similar to the number I just got, but that is cases that were I guess diagnosed that day or certified that day, and it's off by 1, which is, it's rarely, as you can see, it's rarely that close. This over here is the 7-day moving average. So in the last week, over the whole time, the 7 days. So we take basically the number of today, and you can see exactly how this is calculated. It could be useful. Simply average out these 7 days, and that gives us, it's called a moving average because it moves, right? So like every day it's going to go back 7 days prior, which is very useful because when you graph, rather than being skewed by, say, a spike like today, it's not going to be skewed as much by that spike because it's going to be tempered by the previous day's numbers. So let's move on. We'll look at the graphs later because they're more useful in context. Actually, I say that, but it's actually really cool to see them move. So let's go to positive cases, and that is no longer true. So let me just put an X here because that's out of date. And you can already see that my graph had to rejigger itself. Let's, oh crap. Let's see if I can just have it update without moving. All right, let's make it nice and big. No, it won't do it. That's annoying. It'd be really cool if I could get it to, did I change 2 numbers? Anyway. Oh, it's because I moved 2 numbers. Hold please. All right, so there we go. Let's see, maybe if we're lucky, I can just anchor it. Whoa, this is not what I wanted to do. All right, never mind. We're just gonna deal with it. So you can see, I mean, the graph that was published yesterday is slightly different. Actually, I might be able to find it on Twitter to compare it. Twitter.com/me. In the media, I might be able to see. Oh, come on. I'll have to log in just to see that. There you go. There it is. Whoop. Okay, so this was yesterday's graph. You can see it topped out at 10,000-ish. I think that was yesterday's number. So that was yesterday. This is today. Doot, doot. Difference, all right? The moving average is represented. So the green is positives reported, right? Positives on a given date is slightly different. In this case, they are probably identical. Let's see if they properly updated. They might not have. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to slide that down a little bit. So we should see that the positives reported and the positives added, the actual positives, are identical. So that goes right up. So what's really interesting, though, is that uptick. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. You see that sharp uptick? So that 5,000 extra, or I guess the 15,000 added today, did have an impact on the 7-day average, but it's not as sharp as an impact as the impact of the spike itself. So it kind of tempers it, and you can kind of see how you can make that a little less sharp, sensitive, I guess. If you switch it to 14 days, or you can switch it slowly, it's kind of nice to see it smooth out. So 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, 11 days, 12 days, 13 days, 14 days. Still going up, still bad, still problematic, but it kind of like the oscillations of the curve aren't as violent. I'm just going to go back to my 7-day. I believe that 7 days a pretty good rolling average or moving average for positives. I think that's totally fine to use that. And the 7-day average, I think, is at, what is it at? It's at 9,000. So essentially 10,000. Let's update that so I don't have to go back to that later. Whoop, jump the gun. And bloop. All right, so we're basically at 10,000 a day. That's not great. Now on to the grimmer results, deaths. Zoom back to my little Ovid over here. 4,346. Just to be sure, redo the math. From residents and non-residents, we take 4,200 and okay, 4242 plus 104, 4346. Back here, 4346. We're good. All right, so we're not incorrectly reporting deaths. All right, that means we have 45 more reported deaths than yesterday. Doesn't mean 45 people died yesterday. Again, made a few videos and a few explanations on Twitter about that. This number here, D deaths, is daily deaths, and that comes from this state report. If you scroll down a little bit, there's actually, does it come from the state report? No, it doesn't. It comes from a different thing. As you can see on this graph right here, so far, there are only 4 deaths reported for yesterday. That is not surprising. Yesterday was a Saturday. Things go slower on weekends, so there's fewer people. And also, not just that things go slower on weekends, it's also simply because it's recent enough that not all the people who died have been reported. Interestingly enough, if we take the number of people who had been reported yesterday, right, we had 9 people yesterday reported as dead on the 10th. So if you look at the 10th here, it says 15 now, because there's now more people reported as dead. So to get the data from this graph is actually not as straightforward. It's a little harder to get, but we can do it. So let's do it. We can go to, I don't think I source it from here, but essentially in those services that you see in the ArcGIS REST services directory, there's a death by day feature layer, and it contains the data that is used to create this graph. I can prove that to you. You can open, a network analyzer for the requests that are being sent. That's kind of extra nerdy, but if you look for deaths in the URL and reload the dashboard, there you go. We should see a request come in that is an asynchronous request for deaths by day. There you go, deaths by day. So if I copy that URL, take the link address, put it in my browser, you will see that it is the same place. It's just spelled differently, but yeah, there's a case difference, but it's exactly the same thing. So this is what I'm using, just so it's clear that I'm not inventing this data or like finding it in a weird place. I'm finding it from the source. This is what's used by FDOH. This is what I use. What you can do here is also use 1 = 1, put a star in the outfields. That means everything. It's called a wildcard character, and then you can get everything. It's even nicer if you sort by date descending, because you get the latest results at the top, and you see 4 deaths, as we saw on the graph, 15 deaths for the day before. Because I'm lazy, I don't like to copy this by hand. You can get it as JSON, which is a machine readable format, which is great for analysis and research. But I've made a little script that gets the deaths by day and exports them. So let's open the export folder, and then hopefully it'll be legible, or it won't work. Oh, I am in the folder. Should open it. So there's the file. I'm going to drag that file over here. Boop. Okay, this is a little hard to read, but I'm going to take all the data that's there. So it's basically, in order. It reproduces, I'm sorry, this is really, really ugly. It reproduces the day the death occurred since March 5th, the very beginning, and does a time series over that. So I'm going to go and take all of the deaths and copy them, get rid of this chart because I don't need it anymore. So it was just for show. And go back to the 5th, which is this date. Oh, sorry. No, the actual date of death is the date reported. Slightly different, and paste. And when I paste without formatting, it should update my graph. So we have deaths here, and as you can see, these numbers are out of date. So I'm just going to X them out. Let's see. Actually, let's X them out after I update this. It's too bad I can't show you the update. All right. Well, we can look at the tweet so you can see what yesterday's deaths were. There you go. So yesterday we had not a spike, but like a reported of roughly 100, a little lower than 100. And now this new tally is lower. Well, new tally, it's not the tally, it's the new add is lower, but the death reports are still climbing. So the volume of deaths are still going up, probably because of these recent days that were really bad. Also, very important to note, again, like I mentioned, it's Saturday. The weekend tends to be slower, so it's possible. Clearly, as you can see with the seasonality of this data, those red bars are the deaths reported, so the thing I just mentioned. You can see those dips. Those dips are weekends. They're usually weekends, and that bleeds because it's the day before. So it's like sometimes it's the Saturday, Sunday, and the Monday, because the Monday is reporting numbers from the Sunday. So yeah, what you see down here, that red line and the darker shade red shape behind it is deaths by day, but I have not updated that yet. So let me go update it, make sure the graph tracks it. Actually, I need to make this, take the whole column as series. Does that work? That would be nice if it did. Select all body and cells. There we go. That'll be better. It'll stay up to date that way. Hopefully I didn't screw it up. I'm sorry this is so big. Okay, so you see the shape of this thing disappearing kind of like that down there and not being shaded in. And the reason it's not shaded in is that the last 1, 2, 3, 4 days, let's say, we just don't have all these deaths for these specific days. We don't yet know who died on that day. And then of course I broke all my labels by doing this. So I guess I'll do that later. Let me just hack it together really quick. Data references, and just drag that down carefully. That should fix this issue that we're having. It does. All right, cool. I'm not going to deal, well, I could deal with the daily averages. So death reports and death by day. We need the 7-day moving average, which I compute in these two columns. We have D 7-day, and then this is D. Let's call that 7. So this is, you can see again, same calculation, sorry. Averages over the last 7 days, averages over the last 7 days. So it's 73 and 37. 73 for reported, 37 for its oddly mirrored. 73. I'm doing this simply so that people can tell without having to kind of go get cross-eyed. 37. That's it. That's our death update for the day. That is bad. I mean, 70 people a day. The worst we've had so far. Reported again, not actual deaths, which were lower around the same time because we were catching up from underreporting the deaths, but still. That is 10 days, 10 deaths per day more added than we were adding in the thick of it in early May. I really hope that bends back down really quick, but considering this, again, May 4th, right? So look at the cases in May 4th, on May 4th, they were much lower. They barely crossed. Actually, I just realized that we should probably change the intervals now that we're so much higher because they're uneven numbers. So we had 12. Is this useful? I wonder. That's not bad. Yeah. It's a lot of steps, but anyway. And deaths, looks like we're on nice even numbers. I do this simply because as the graph gets bigger and bigger and bigger, these reference lines not being clear can be problematic for people trying to read this graph. So let's go to hospitalization, which is my biggest worry these days. And the way we get hospitalization is tricky because it's not from the same source, from the AHCA, which is the Hospital Administration. And so updated at 7/12 at 4:30. I can't believe it's that late already. We have a grand total of 7,542 people currently hospitalized with a primary diagnosis of COVID. Primary diagnosis is only people who came in because they were tested for COVID, not because they were pregnant and happened to be tested for COVID. Someone who is in the hospital because they're pregnant gets a test just to be safe, because that's likely going to happen in hospitals. They're probably not going to be counted in this tally. So 7,542, again, in my little dashboard thing, if you scroll down, it's not really a dashboard so much as there you go, 7,542 is the same. It was pulled at 2. Let's refresh. Let's say I would like to see if it's been updated more recently. There you go. So that's the 5 p.m. tally, 7,542. It hasn't moved. So that's good. Let me go open the door. Cats need to eat too. So hospitalizations, they're over here. We have a lot of numbers, so a lot of confusion possible. CUM is cumulative. This is hospitalizations, I think total, which we get from the case line, because every single person who has been hospitalized, every person who is positive who has been hospitalized is noted in the case line as having been hospitalized. This is exclusively positive people, understandably, and is a cumulative number that does not tell us how many of those people are still hospitalized. But still, actually, I don't know why I just copied. And what I'm talking about, yeah, cumulative hospital is this one. Okay, so start here. Resident, not resident. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So I think there's a different number somewhere. I think I was getting it somewhere else. I just wanted to see what percentage of hospitalizations, which I think are listed here. Hospitalized Florida residents. No, there you go. So as you see, it's similar numbers. Let's see if they add up. I guess we can subtract them. How did I get that number? Did I get it from the county? Hospitalized. Yeah, there you go. That's how I got it. This is, I didn't explain that. I should explain. This is the data aggregated from county totals. So every county reports their own. So there's a county report specifically. And, actually, it might be in here. Hospitalization 18271. So we should see for residents 18271, right? And then the total that I get from Caseline is, so 18271 minus the other number should give us that. So we have 18590 minus that, all right, we're good. Everything checks out. 319, thankfully not that many more non-residents getting hospitalized as you'd expect because there's fewer of them. So this is current hospitalized COV. I know my labels are horrible, but I'm trying to keep them small so that I keep the space. So 7452, we talked about that. 7542. Let's just copy the number so we don't make fat finger mistakes. As you can see, there's a lot more manual work involved, even though I'm a programmer and I should have automated a lot of this. I don't have a lot of time to do that. PUIs is a whole different person under investigation. It's a lot more complicated stuff. I think I'm going to skip explaining all of this stuff, but essentially it's persons under investigation are supposed to be persons we contact trace, so we get in touch with to figure out if they've been in contact with, if they have been in contact with a COVID positive person, did they develop symptoms, and should we isolate or quarantine them? And then monitored is a slightly similar but maybe different metric that is noted at the top of the state report as monitored persons. So we have a total of, and those are reports, not people, I don't know. So this is our monitored total. We have, the difference between each days. I've missed some days, sadly. And this is total persons of high, medium, or unknown risks. I think that's it. Yeah. And then PUIs, I don't even think that's reported anymore. No. At least not in this one. So that's it for hospitalizations. Let's copy our moving average before we go there so I don't have to do that again. The moving average is, I forgot to mention this. This over here is my computation, however unreliable, of the difference between cumulative total of hospitalized people and the current hospitalized to give us a percentage of how many of the currently hospitalized how many of the all-time hospitalized are still being hospitalized. This seems high to me. I need to verify that number and have someone tell me that I'm doing the wrong thing here, hopefully, because that seems like a lot of people. So almost half of the people ever hospitalized for COVID-19 being in the hospital right now would probably be concerning if it was true. And gone is people who were in the cumulative total and are not. But again, that's a lot of inferences here that I don't know if I'm comfortable making. All right, so we got that. Do we have our moving? I don't think we have our moving. No, we don't have our moving average. I think it's automatically calculated for us. Let's see. So, I wonder how I got that. I don't see him moving. Maybe it's, there it is. Hospital 7 day. So this is good. Well, this is good. Again, it's the weekend, so I don't know. So the last 3 days before today, we got a lot of new people added to the cumulative. It's really hard to say that word for some reason. And then the rolling 7-day average was high. It's still high because of these 3 really, really bad days. So now we're at, I copied it, so we'll see when I paste it. Whoa. I apologize if you're getting nausea. There you go. That's our new number. Let's move that up a little bit. Did I move that up? I wonder why that average was... Huh. Yep, and then for deaths, slightly lower, slightly higher. I need to shade that. It's really hard to see. Shadow, offset 2? No, opacity, that's what I need. There you go. Easier to see. Do I have my other ones that are harder to see? Yeah, let's get that one a shadow. Problem is that the other one's black, so it's kind of hard to see. That is tricky. I need to do something about that other trend line being black. I think that's... might need to change its color to something a little bit more... Okay, I think red is good. Make it a little brighter. Okay. Yeah, I like that better. Because we can see, it's much easier to see when they diverge. Cool. Let's give it a little bit of an offset. Maybe not quite as dark. Nice. Yeah. And same for this one. A little bit of an offset. No blur. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so this is really worrisome. So again, the 7-day moving average is nearly double, right? 350 essentially. Well, not quite double, but 150 more. 150 more people per day getting in the hospital or being added to the hospital. Hopefully they get discharged quickly. I don't know. Here I haven't really fiddled with the 7-day moving average. Let's see what happens. Oh wow, that has shifted quite a bit. So not that much actually. So that's 14 days. Looks much more smooth. 7 days. The trend doesn't change. It never changes. It just kind of reduces the impact of recent changes, recent developments. When you do 14 days, of course, like anything that happened in the last 14 days, which is, you know, all of July, because it's the 12th right now, it gets kind of like eaten out or disappeared. All right, tests. Let's see how we did on tests. Tests are listed as in the county totals because the counties kind of like report. Every tester is reported for a given county, so we're gonna do tests, and there's a lot of test numbers. We have positive tests, we have cases, we have negative tests. We do care about negative tests. That number, 2,304,000. Let's make sure that it's reflected here. Negative test, 2,304,196. Yep, that's it. So as you can see, again, I'm making sure that my numbers are not completely off the charts. Literally, somehow missed negatives on a day. That's problematic. I don't derive anything from negatives. It's just bookkeeping. It does give me kind of like a movement, but yeah. So that's negatives. We need tested, which is down here. Tested meaning people tested, not actual tests. And then number tested is reported in the state graph, but it's not reported anywhere else, which would it'd be really nice if it was reported in, I don't know, it would be tricky. It would need to be a time series like the deaths by day, basically. But that'd be really useful. So if you know someone at FDOH, hit them up. So this is number of people tested by day. That is an all-time record. Wait, actually, yeah, Confusing all-time record, however. Number of people tested by day includes retests. Yeah. Person is only counting once for each day they were tested. Yes. But people tested on multiple days will be included for each day a new result was received, right? New result. That suggests to you, well, actually it makes it very clear that I don't know why it's formatted weird like that. What did I do? Let's copy the formatting. Oh, maybe that column needs to grow now. Yep, it does. Wow, that is a lot of tests, of which almost 100,000 were not retests, I think. Now this number gets misconstrued a lot just today. Someone used that data. So this is the data from labs, which is not dated. So we may not know yet if these people are included in here. When asked, FDOH has said, hey, careful about that. Just don't use it to do differentials like this, like 136,000 here. See, is not quite the number of new tests or new tested people. It's tricky. Like I don't have a clear handle on this either. It's just I would not use this to infer anything specific. Now, when it comes to averages tested, do I have an average? There you go. That's my average. My rolling average of tested people is 53,000. That is very heartening because we were very much plateauing on the test front. Wow. That's a lot of tests. Yep. I don't know why my 7-day average was so high. Oh no, the graph rejiggered because we changed so much. That explains it. Do I need that many? I guess I do need that many because there's a lot of intermediate. I'm not going to try to say it. So this is higher because yesterday's graph was not as tall, or relatively not as tall. Finally, it's nice to see this. We were plateauing, as you can see. We were going up for a while for the end of June, and then we plateaued heavily in the first half of July, and we're almost going down. And now finally we accelerated there. I'm not sure it's going to keep going that way. All right, let's talk about positivity. Leaving the hardest for last. Positivity is complicated because, as you could see with the test numbers, there's tested people, there's tests, there's retested people, there's people who were tested for the first time. And that is what I think FDOH is trying to tackle when they're giving these two sections in the line report, the state report. So the percent positive results range from this to that over the last 2 weeks. Those numbers change every day because a lot of tests are inconclusive or they get removed or because there's issues with them. That happens. It's not a conspiracy. It's just, data is hard. A person is only counted once for each day they are tested, regardless of whether multiple specimens are tested or multiple results are received. If a person has a positive specimen, only the positive is counted, which is good, I think. So to summarize, they get 13.62% because they take this number of negatives, add it to this number of positives, which gives them a total. That total is this total. Let's just independently verify that. So we take 123, 501 plus 19,480, 142. That's right. All right, cool. So that's our total. So we get 13.62% by doing that positive number. And then what positivity means is simply positive per tests. 142, 13 multiplied by 100, you get 1362. Independently verified, everybody's happy. This is great. And then let me see if I've actually had that in there because I have a little section over here. All right, cool. So 12.16. I don't know where I put that. Hmm. 711. 711. That is not correct. I don't think these two numbers are correct. 13.62. So this is the first time positivity, which is something else we're going to talk about. This is my calculated new tested people versus new positive people. Now those are slightly different numbers, as you can tell. Yeah, I don't know why we're getting 19,000 positives. Yeah, I don't get that. 19,000. I'm actually confused as to what that is. Let me see. Let me check yesterday's report. Okay, yesterday we had 13,332. Right. Well, these counts include the number of people for whom the department received the PCR or antigen laboratory results. I'm gonna venture a big guess right now, and because antigen is, I don't know if I explained this already. I'm sorry, this is already a very long video. PCR, RT-PCR is, yes, I think I did explain that. So antigen is just has a lot of false negatives. So it gets it's easier and cheaper to do, but it is not confirmatory. Anyway, it cannot confirm necessarily that someone is COVID-19 positive. It just helps you narrow it down because it's faster to do than PCR, I believe. I wonder if they're including antigen positive people in this positivity number. And then somehow their own number of positives for that day is excluding them because it is. I mean, otherwise I don't understand how we're getting 13,000. And this might be just I'm tired and I just forgot. But number of cases per day, why wouldn't those cases be the same as the positives? Right now I don't know, so I'm just gonna pave over that and just switch down to percent positivity for new cases. 1264. Oh, I think I had put that before. That's my bad. So 1264 for 710. Yeah, for 710. That's 710. So we don't. Oop, that's a lot. What did I do? 1264. Okay, cool. And then what did we have on? Am I on the? Oh, I am wrong. I'm on the 11th report. This is why you get people to verify your results. Okay. Whoa. Okay. So on the okay, on the 12th for the 11th, 11.25. On 12th for the 11th, 11.25. On the 11th for the 10th, 1264. Let's just go back one more day. On the 10th for the 9th, boop, 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 we had, just trying to keep these numbers kind of like coherent, 1275. I think I might be off. Thankfully, I don't really often publish these positivity numbers because they're extremely confusing, and I think that I might be off by one day. Anyway, regardless of that, a basic idea of positivity. Ooh. 79. Oh, I haven't updated that in a while, so let's just drag that down. This is my calculated positivity, which is slightly different. As you can see, it's going down. It could be going down because there's more testing, and that's actually very likely the situation here. And then here, let's make sure we update that too. I'm not going to publish that right now because I'll probably need to cycle out and figure out why my numbers are out of whack, which I wish more people would do before they publish something that is startling to them. Yeah, okay, good. This is great. Well, I think I might be missing or getting some numbers out of whack in here. And then I'm going to move that out because that's not accurate anymore. But yeah, it's good to see the positivity going down. because that was the thing that a lot of people were arguing, is that no, we're testing more, that's why we're getting more positives. No, that's not how that works. The person positivity, so number of people positive per people tested, that's what tells you how bad it is on the testing side, at least, that you're finding more people that are positive in every test you make. So hopefully it's going down because we're testing more and we're expanding the pool of people we test, and we realize that fewer of that set are actually positive. Florida started including antigen tests on July 1st, right about here, or here. And I don't know if it has an impact on that, but anyway, that is the data entry that I do to produce these graphs, and I can probably just like yank that out. Actually, let's put it back. And then what I do is I didn't take screenshots of these. It is very manual. I wish I had set this up with D3 or some sort of like automated chart making tool, but I am not super familiar with them, and I am familiar with Numbers, which is essentially PowerPoint for Mac. And there you go. That's what we have. So generally, I will go and take the frame that you see around these are roughly the size of a tweet, and it allows me to share that with everyone. And to summarize, positivity is going up. Sorry, not positivity. Positive cases are going up. Positivity is going down, which is good, in the last few days at least. Deaths are sure look like they're surging, as sadly you would expect from, see, if you put these two side by side, it actually helps quite a bit. So let's look at all of them side by side. We had a sudden spike roughly around, we had increasing numbers of positives since June, but we've had a sudden spike, an acceleration of positives on end of June. That's 12 days from now, roughly. 12 to 14 days is incubation period, or likely incubation period of COVID-19. And as you would expect, after a small, slow increase in deaths, simply because we have so many more people who were positive, and some of them are bound to die, which is really sad to say. Recently, so on like July 9th or 8th, we had a big increase in reported deaths, and that corresponds pretty well with that large increase in cases. Yeah, so tests, good. Contact tracing, hard to tell. Hospitalizations, worrisome. Why? Because there's a limit to how many people we can treat at the same time. So in conclusion, please wear a mask. If you're going to publish data, please, before I publish this, I'm going to share it with a group of people who know better than I do, or do the same thing and can tell me if they've seen similar results. The COVID tracking project, which I volunteer for, covidtracking.com, probably recently finished their data run, or they're in the middle of it. So if you go to here, type Florida, you will see 7-Eleven. No, they haven't. Actually, let's see. I don't think they've reported for today. Oh, no, they have. Look at that. So that's a good thing to look at. So you can see if the charts line up. So new tests, they have 98,000. Yep, that's about right. Let's make sure that that's actually right. Slightly different, to be investigated. New cases, 260, actually cases, not new cases. New cases, they're at 15,300. That matches up with my numbers. Now I'm curious why. It's possible that I might have had an erroneous number the day before, which would have led me to have that. So let me just check how many tests they had yesterday. 245. Oh yeah, I had a different number yesterday. That's interesting. I'm curious how we're arriving at two different numbers. But in the meantime, we don't yet have enough current hospitalization numbers to to make a chart. And then for new deaths, we have 4346, and that's the same number I have. So I'll just have to go in with them and try to figure out why I'm getting different test numbers. 2574007. 2574007. Oh, that's the wrong day. That's why you gotta be careful. State report. I might have picked up the wrong. 2576 8113 813 2576 813. Did they only include residents? I will have to find out. This is going to be a cliffhanger. Anyway, be careful out there, and in your reporting of numbers or potential conspiracy theories, it's not that simple. Actually, they might have picked something here. 2576813. Wait, is that the number? Nope. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for me on this one. I just wanted to show my process. It's not bulletproof, and one of the most important part of a process like this is DC, double checking, or double checking data quality. Making sure that you're not the only set of eyes that sees something before you publish it. Find peers like the volunteers at the COVID tracking project, journalists, researchers from universities that are focused on this stuff, and make sure that you don't fly off the seat of your pants and publish something before you have vetted it, because it has an impact on people. They make decisions based on this stuff, and it's crucial data. Thanks.